Hello, Mr. Gobbo here. Welcome to Battle Report number 8. This time I face Pinktaco and his Saurian Ancients in a 2500 point battle. We used the 9th Age v.0.11.9.3 rule set. We generated the terrain at random using rules for random terrain deployment found in the rulebook. In the top right corner we obviously have a forest. And closest to the bottom right hand corner we obviously have a field. Notice the smiling farmer. For deployment type, we got flank attack. Deployment type I failed miserably at in my previous battle report. This time I got to be attacker. The secondary objective was breakthrough. Now let's take a look at our lists. As always, feel free to pause the video at any time to get more time to read the glorious details. I've heard someone say that the devil is in the detail, so see if you can find him. My opponent tried something completely different from his previous lists, lining up with fewer drops and trying out a big unit of Skink Braves and Caimans with the added spice of a nasty Caiman Ancient BSB. My opponent also found room for a Saurian Warlord to further enhance the combat power of his Temple Guard unit. Another detail is the Ancient Taurosaur with an Engine of the Ancients. In regards to my list, I wanted to go with a close combat oriented goblin theme list. This time, Mr. Gobbo joins forces with his cousin, Mr.Forest Gobbo, who you met 2 battle reports ago. This, at least in terms of fluff, unholy alliance allowed me to combine the best from both worlds. The Cave Trolls, Mad Gits, Gnashers, and wrecking teams from the Cave Goblins, with the poisoned Spear Gobbos and Gargantula from the Forest Goblins. Also notice that while I think the Great Green Idol is maybe too powerful in combination with a Warg from an Orc General, here I'm not thinking about a competitive environment, but the power and fun level I expect from my opponents, and the chance of them not being totally crushed. I find it okay to bring it in a Goblin army. Since I don't have the model, a poor student is saving up for the Forge World one, I proxied him with an unpainted giant. Say hello to my experimental BSB. Is this list a stroke of brilliance or madness? Only time will tell. Concerning spells, my level 4 Shaman took the Path of Shadows, and because of the Tome of Arcane Lore, I got 5 spells. I got everything I wanted, the Signature Spell, Devouring Darkness, and Mind Razor. My opponent will always be afraid of Devouring Darkness, so maybe that will make him conserve his Dispel dice for that, allowing me to get other dangerous spells through. And so, my level 1 Forest Goblin went with the Path of the Little Green Gods, because I wanted the chance to get the poison spell, Blessing of the Mother Spider. However, I didn't get it, so I took the signature spell instead, because of its anti-chaff capabilities. And now for the battle plan. Number 1, choose the correct matchups, because of superior numbers. I have a lot more drops than my opponent this time. Number 2, get going, not too much holding back. Number 3, anti-chaff. Use the Gnashers to whittle down the big enemy units, get rid of chaff as soon as possible. Number 5, victory! Now, a few words about our deployment. Because I had more drops than my opponent, I got to choose the matchups. This enabled me to put my Spear Forest Gobbos directly across from the Skink Braves and Caimans, and then place my Gargantula, Queen Goma, at my left flank. I don't think my opponent realized that I could easily traverse the ruin with it, so that was brilliant. Right before we start, yes, that tree trunk is the famed Caiman Ancient. Lucky for me, Mr.Forest Gobbo brought an axe, like the good goblin he is. Time for some wood chopping. I used the Crown of the Cavern King to vanguard my Cave Goblins so I could get on top of the hill. I think my opponent also moved up his Skyriders on each flank. The Saurian Ancients obviously won the roll-off for first turn, having fewer drops than I did. So here it is, the Saurian Ancients turn 1. In the movement phase, the secondary objective forces my opponent to advance rapidly in my position. He doesn't care too much for defending. The Skyriders move down on my left flank, ready to start annoying my Gargantula. In the magic phase, my opponent casts some kind of damage spell and finishes off my wrecking team. When will I ever get to try it for reals? I think he also casts a damaging spell on my Gobbos, killing a few. No notable shooting and no close combat. And so, it's time for the Orcs and Goblins turn 1. In the movement phase, I don't have any charges to declare yet, so I move up my army. Note my Gnasher herd in the lower right hand corner, my left flank. I somehow thought that a field was dangerous terrain for warbeasts, so I just move it normally without marching. This was clearly a mistake, but only a small one at that. Queen Goma the Gargantula takes advantage of her mobility, especially the Strider rule, as she moves into the ruin. On my right flank, I think I want my Gnasher Dashers to try and eat the Skyriders there. In the magic phase, I get off the boosted Shadow Miasma spell and get lucky by reducing the stats of the Temple Guards by 3. They're fairly slow now, with a movement value of 1. In the shooting phase, my Cave Gobbos give the Skinks a good taste of my fully armed and operational battle stations volley fire. I kill 5 Skinks. No close combat yet, but it seems my plan of encircling my opponent is going to succeed. It's time for the Saurian Ancients turn 2. In the movement phase, the Taurosaur realizes what my Gargantula is trying to do, and starts the long trek to cover the Temple Guard's flank. My opponent moves his remaining units forward, trying to keep a battle line, except the Sky Riders on my right flank. They don't want to be eaten by my Nasher Dashers. And now to magic. My opponent gets really unlucky in this phase, and flops most of his rolls. I dispel the rest. In the shooting phase, the Skinks on my left flank shoot and kill 2 Nasher Dashers, and some of the Skink Braves from the big Skink block kill off 1 Nasher Dasher on my right flank. No close combat, so it all looks like this. It's time to shift my combat stance to semi-aggressive. And let's get on with the Goblins and Goblins turn 2. In the movement phase, my Nasher herd on my left flank decides to remove the Skinks from existence and declares a charge. I know I have to take some dangerous terrain tests, but I think I'll be fine. I get lucky and only lose 1. My Nasher herd on my right flank also charges. It reaches the intended target, the big Skink and Caiman unit. Now, why do I throw away the lives of my Nashers? I know I could just stay put, but my paranoia decreed the possible removal of ranks from the big units, so I wouldn't lose steadfast with my Spear Gobbos. So this charge is to inflict maximum damage and remove as many Skinks as possible. My Nasher Dashers on my left flank utilize their boing rule and jump all the way into the Sky Riders. My opponent didn't expect this, neither did I if you have seen my other battle reports, and calculate the average distance covered by my Nasher Dashers. But for now, let's just pretend that I am a brilliant Goblin King. The Nasher Dashers on my right flank also move into the Skink/Caiman unit in order to maximize my damage output. In the magic phase, Wuzgob, my level 1 Forest Gobbo Shaman, tries to handle some chaff with a damage spell, killing 2 Skinks. Pretty underwhelming when you think about the fact that it was 3d6 strength 3 hits. Ula da Finca, my level 4 Cave Gobbo Shaman, gets off the Shadow Miasma spell again on the Temple Guards, reducing their stats by 3. I think my opponent feared my Devouring Darkness spell, so he let the other spells through. And now to the shooting phase. Maximum firepower! The elite Arrogates fire on the Temple Guards, killing 1. Don't you just love it when close combat already starts in turn 2? Let's get on with the close combat phase. Whoops! Only 1 Nasher Dasher left. I still win combat by 2, but the Sky Riders naturally pass their Leadership 3 test. And the left Nasher herd kills off the Skinks and pivots a bit. In the last combat of this round, I overrated the combat power of my Nashers and Nasher Dashers a bit, because I forgot about the parry rule. I still kill a bit more than average, ending the life of 12 Skinks, but I still have 3 Nashers left in my herd, and they explode, killing my last Nasher Dasher. Still, they did their job, removing a bit more than a full rank. Now it gets really interesting. Let's see how my opponent reacts to the un-Mr.Gobbo-like display of aggression. Let's get ready for the Saurian Ancients turn 3. In the movement phase, the ancient Taurosaur activates the Shield of Tlaloc, or whatever it's called, as to protect the Temple Guards. My opponent then cleverly decides that he would probably move a longer distance with the Temple Guards if he charged my Nasher herd than if he marched, even with a failed charge. He needed to roll 10 or 11, so naturally he fails. The Skink and Caiman unit charges my Forest Gobbos, and they lose a couple in the stand and shoot charge reaction. They reach their intended target. In the magic phase, my opponent casts some sort of damaging spell on my remaining Nasher herd, killing 4. And again, no notable shooting. In the close combat phase, my lone Nasher Dasher inflicts a wound, killing 1 Sky Rider. The remaining Sky Rider still passes its Leadership 4 test. And holy crap! In the close combat with the Spear Gobbos, I kill off 22 Skinks with my poison attacks, and my opponent kills 13 Gobbos. My opponent breaks from combat and runs 8 inches. I pursue 7. I still get the battle standard banner though. The flee move takes him through the Sky Riders, who then fail their panic test and also flee, overtaking the remaining Caimans. This is perfect. It really looks like things are getting nasty for the Saurians. It's time for the Goblins turn 3. First, the movement phase. Charge! This picture is quite complex, so let me talk you through it. My Nasher herd declares a charge on the ancient Taurosaur, just so they could get out of the way for the trolls at Gargantula. They managed to make contact. The Gargantula charges the Temple Guards, along with the Cave Trolls and Arrow Gobbos and Great Green BSB Idol, who gets a flank charge. The Cave Trolls roll 3, the rest get in. As you can see in the top right corner, the Spear Gobbos declare charge on the fleeing Caimans, making them flee even further. And in the magic phase, I managed to get off the Mind Razor spell on my Goblin Arrogance. Nice! Now they have Hatred, Armor Piercing 1, and all hits auto wound. It's a good day. Since there's no shooting, let's go directly to the close combat phase. The Nasher Dasher finally eats the last dino bird. About time. And then, what? Yes, I killed every single Temple Guard before they got the strike, and my Gargantula and Idol killed the Fat Frog with stumps. The Gargantula manages to take a wound from the Warlord. I pursue with my Idol and Gargantula, but I miss the Warlord by 1 inch. The Nasher herd manages to inflict a single wound on the Ancient Torosaur, but the Nashers lose combat and they pass their leadership test. Oh, sorry. At some point I must have released my Madgits, even though I can't remember when or how it happened. Sorry. I must have brain farted and released them during my opponent's shooting phase, which is illegal. Well, they did make a difference anyway. Bad dog! Bad dog! I'll mention a possible cause for this mistake at the end of the video, but let's get on with the Saurian Ancients turn 4. In the movement phase, the Caimans rally and the Skyriders too. The Lone Warlord also rallies. No frog, no magic, so let's go to the shooting phase where the Skinks kill my crime-riding Mad Git. In the close combat phase, the Ancient Torosaur finishes off the last Nashers and pivots as to get ready to ram into my Green Idol or Gargantula. Either way, it's gonna hurt. And now, the Goblins turn 4. First, the movement phase. We can't have the Ancient Torosaur charging now, can we? My troops are full of bloodlust, and so the Green Idol charges the Warlord. This allows it to get out of the way so my Gargantula can charge. My Gargantula charges the Skinks, along with my Cave Gobbos. The Skinks then decide to flee. I then redirect my Gargantula into the recently rallied Caimans, and I get lucky and roll really high to cover that great distance. My Trolls then charge the Ancient Torosaur, as to prevent it from moving ever again. My Forest Gobbos charge the Caimans too. As you can now see, the Skinks actually fled through the Caimans and through the Skyriders. This makes the Skyriders panic and flee off the battlefield. All units but my Arrow Gobbos make it into contact with the enemy. The Lone Nasher Dasher tries to get in on the fun and moves closer to the enemy deployment zone. And now magic. To add insult to injury, I got off the boosted Shadow Miasma on the Caimans, reducing their stats by 3. And there was no shooting. In the close combat phase, my Trolls vomit on the Ancient Torosaur, causing 3 wounds. They don't take a single wound in return. But the Torosaur sticks. In the Spear Gobbo combat, the terrifying Tree Trunk challenges Mr.Forest Gobbo the Woodchopper, who naturally accepts. Long story short, 1 Gobbo dies, all Caimans and Skinks are eradicated. My Forest Gobbos decide to overrun, since this will bring them into my opponent's deployment zone, and allow me to score the secondary objective. The Spider pivots. The Great Green Idol and the Warlord hold a staring contest. And now, the Saurian Ancients turn 5. In the movement phase, the Skinks fail to rally and flee off the table. No magic, no shooting. So, in the close combat phase, the Cave Trolls take a wound and finish off the Ancient Torosaur, pivoting as to get ready to eat the Warlord if he doesn't die this round. I still don't hit anything with the Green Idol, but I take 3 wounds from the Warlord. I fail my armor saves, and I forget about my 5-up ward save. I still manage to pass my brick test. However, I'm the type of person who needs closure for such things, so I rolled 3 dice and saved 2 of them, so in my mind I only took 1 wound. And now, the Goblins turn 5. In the movement phase, my Trolls charge the flank of the Warlord and manage to reach him. The rest of my units move in for that epic photo. No use in risking a miscast, so there's no magic, and no shooting as there are no valid targets left. So let's jump straight to the close combat phase. And then, the Warlord is dissolved in a basin of troll puke.
They's all dead, boss! Use the Trixies, get in the jungle!
A resounding 10-0 to the close combat-oriented Cave and Forest Gobbo army. And now, it's time for the post-game evaluation. Number 1, my opponent seemed to forget to use the abilities of the engine of the Ancients, which could have ensured that the Temple Guards covered a greater distance and maybe didn't fail their charge. As he told me, he needs a few games with a new list, just like me, to get a preferred tactic under his skin. Number 2. The failed charge of the Temple Guards allowed me to spring the trap, countercharging with a lot of units, and also the Mind Razor helped immensely. This is where Cave Goblins are very handy. Their Initiative 3 allowed them to remove a lot of models before the Temple Guards got to strike. Number 3. Remember that the Mad Gits cannot be released in the opponent's shooting phase. I misread this because it only says in the player's shooting phase. To remove any confusion so imbeciles like me won't misunderstand the rules, maybe that sentence should be reworded to the owning player's shooting phase. Or is that even more confusing? Number 4. Oh. Forest Gobbos with spears and the poison banner are incredibly strong. Being not the greatest tactician myself, I was really worried about them going up against the Skink Braves with the hard-hitting Caimans. I didn't need to worry whatsoever. That Forest Goblin build looks like the strongest goblin unit available in our book. They have throwing weapons and spears with shields for only 4 points a model. Add a poison banner for 25 points and their combat power is almost too good with their ability to stand and shoot. That unit is a no-brainer, so I don't know if I will ever use it again. Maybe if I find myself without empathy for my opponent. I also don't want to get too attached to this build. It will make it hurt even more when it's taken away from me. Just like the Wrecking Teams and the Green Hand. And multiple stops from the Bigfoot. Like this video if you cry every time. Number 5. So, a too long didn't read / watch / listen. Ruffle Stump by Mr.Gobbo and Forest Gobbo. Thank you for joining me for this battle report. I hope you enjoyed the game as much as I did. Poor Pinktaco though. If you have any feedback, tactical or otherwise, and for the record, I really enjoy the comments I'm getting on my past videos, then please leave them here on my YouTube channel or on my 9th Age user blog, and I will respond as quickly as possible. Feel free to make suggestions for my next lists, as I'm always open to trying out new things. Well, that's enough for today. I should go. Mr. Gobbo out.